Well, it's the last day before term starts, and as typical, I am feeling woefully underprepared. Hello again, team. It's Jess or JashiiCorrin, and welcome back for day 14 of the Month of Planning with Me series. Before I get into all of my journals for today though, first we're going to have today's tidbit. For today's tidbit, I figured I'd show you guys some of the things that I'm using to do online teaching. Term 2 starts back tomorrow. We only actually got to have 3 days of remote learning before the school holidays because they were brought forward by 2 weeks. But for the foreseeable future, we will be doing teaching online. So the first program that we're using is Microsoft Teams. And for those of you who are familiar with it, it's kind of like the Microsoft version of Google Classroom, but essentially it's just a virtual learning space. So you can see here I have each of my classes. So my science class is the first 5 here. I then have 12 IB and 13 IB for the students doing the International Baccalaureate, so that I can talk to them about CAS. We also have one for the science department, one for the Year 9 Wellbeing team, so that's the form teachers and the Year 9 Dean, and then I have one for my form class as well. You may also notice, at least for my science classes, these are color-coded in the same way that I have them in my teacher planner. So jumping into one of these to have a look, let's say Phys Chem. So in here I can post announcements, I can give them assignments, and a whole bunch of different stuff really. So this section here is the main feed where I just post most of the announcements. We then also have the file section where I can put any of the materials for our classes. So for instance, our last topic was acids and bases. So in here we have all of the slides, any of the practice sheets, that kind of stuff. We also have the class notebook, but we'll look at that in a second. And we have the assignments tab. So the assignments tab is essentially what it sounds like. It's a place where I can administer assignments to my students. And I can upload documents to these so each student gets their own copy for them to work on, and then they can also submit this through Teams as well. So for instance, I have some of our weekly assignments here for acids and bases, and I also set one up for the end of topic test so I could give them back their grades. Because they did the test before we went into lockdown, but I didn't do the marking until the holidays. We also have a grades section here so that I can see all of the grades that I've given for their marked assignments. We also have a tutorial sign-up space, and Polly, which is just for doing polls. Pretty much all of my science teams are set up in the same way, and then my ones for CAS, I really only use the file section sparingly, but most of the time I just use the general posting place for announcements. Along with this, I also have the chat section, which I've been making pretty good use of. So in here I can message the students individually, or I can message them as a group. So I have a group chat set up for all of my classes, because sometimes it's just easier to chat with the students rather than posting announcements in the team. This is the space that I'll also use to reach out to students individually if they have any questions during lessons. And of course I have a few group chats with my colleagues, whether that be for teachers who take the same subject, our department as a whole, our wellbeing team, or just general chat. I'm not going to go into too much more detail with Microsoft Teams because I have a couple of other things I want to show you, but if you had any other questions about how I use that one, please do leave them in the comments. The next app that I use is OneNote. So along the side here you can see I have the recipes OneNote, very important to have that one. I also have a OneNote for each of my classes, and these OneNotes are linked to the Microsoft Teams space. There's also one for the science teachers, and there's also one for Year 9 Wellbeing. The general way that I use OneNote is that each lesson gets its own page. So if we go and have a look at Year 11 Phys Chem, you can see that each of the lessons run down the side here, so they've all got a title that's linked to the slides. So the page says Lesson 01 Atomic Structure, and the slide set will be called 01 Atomic Structure. And any practice pages that I make up will be called 01 Atomic Structure. Just so that then the students can really easily see all of the things that link to one lesson. Having a look at these pages in a little more detail though, so on each page we have the aim of the lesson objectives, and then the tasks that can be done to practice that content. And these ones are split into must, should, and could. So if we have a look at one that's a little later on, let's say chemical reactions. So for chemical reactions, they needed to complete SciPad pages 26 to 30, and then there were 2 different Education Perfect tasks they could do to practice as well. Having a look at ions, So you can see that on this one, I have the stuff that they can do, and then also some other things that I want them to do down the bottom. So if we have a look at biochem, because I know that one has some. So for mammals, let's say dental adaptations, I have a section down the bottom here where I've asked them to summarize the different functions of the teeth in herbivores and carnivores. And again, these are all set up to have the number and the title, and then the slides have the same number and title, and any practice sheets I give them, same number, same title. The ones that I have for year 8 are a little bit different. So these ones have a section of notes which have a bunch of different gaps that they need to fill in using tasks that I've set up on Education Perfect. And then down the bottom they have some tasks they can do to practice those skills or show what they've learnt. Each of these has one must-do task, and then between 1 and 3 can-do tasks. And the idea is that over the topic they'll have done enough tasks to get 20 stars. Because 20 stars is what's needed to get a science badge. So that's all good and well for telling the students what I want them to do to practice the content, but in terms of content delivery, this is where PowerPoint comes in. So having a look at the structure of my PowerPoints, these ones are set up to mimic the OneNote. So the aim on these slides are the same, we also have the lesson objectives which are the same, and then on each slide we also have those learning objectives again on the side here, with the one that this slide is relevant for being highlighted. So this page is all about defining speed, whereas the next one is about carrying out calculations, etc, etc. Rather than just giving my students the slides while they're on remote learning and expecting them to read through them themselves, what I've been doing is making videos of me going through the slides, talking about the important points, all of that kind of stuff. So the way we do this one, so we start at the start, and then go to the recording tab up the top here, and then the record slideshow function here. So I'll record the slideshow, and then I'll export it as a video, bring that into my editing software, tidy it all up, and then put it on YouTube so the students can see it. Of course, those videos are unlisted, so you guys don't get a bunch of notifications being like, oh, JashiiCorrin posted something. It's a lecture on speed. Which, as cool as it would be to have you guys watching that, I don't think you care too much. So you can see if we jump over to YouTube, I have those videos that I've made and they're all unlisted so my students can see them when I give them the link, but it means you guys don't get notified and the rest of the general population of YouTube can't watch me awkwardly ramble about acceleration and stuff like that. The nice part I feel about me doing videos rather than just doing like Teams meetings where I talk through the slides and all that, is that the students are going to be much better able to work at their own pace, they can re-watch sections if they need to, and then during our lessons I'm always available on Teams so that I can answer any questions. The last program I want to show you guys is Excel, and Excel is what I use to make a bunch of different auto-marking practice sheets. So these ones are again tied to each lesson by writing out the number and the title of the lesson. And the way that these ones work is that there's a question, an answer box, and a section for marking. So the question might ask something, what type of solid is iron? And then they have a little drop-down menu which they can pick the right option from. So let's just say they said that iron was ionic. And it would tell them, oh, nope, sorry, you are not correct. Whereas if they pick the correct answer, which is metallic, then it'll tell them they're correct. Up the top here it gives them a tally of the number they're yet to give an answer to, the number they have correct, and the number they have incorrect. So for instance, let's say aluminium, metallic, bromine, ionic, titanium, let's just say they call it a covalent network, they get it wrong. So you can see these numbers change as we go through and fill it in. I don't make these for every single lesson, but for the ones that it's relatively straightforward to do that, I will. Hopefully that was interesting for you guys. If you had any questions about my overall process for online teaching, please do leave them in the comments. For now though, on to setting up today's checklist. I'm not going to write the day until a little bit later because I know I put a lot of ink down here, so it's still probably not quite dry, and I want to make sure it's really dry so that then the ink doesn't like bleed or spider. Flipping back to my monthly pages though. So I have Sunday and Monday to fill out. So I wrote down that on Sunday I stayed up late to watch more Altered Carbon, and then yesterday I got a heap done for school, but that also caused me to stay up late. But a cool thing that also happened was that I got to check in with Erin of Erin Floto Designs, who had a live plan with me, probably going at a very reasonable time for wherever she is, but it was like 1:45 in the morning for me. It was still cool to catch that though. For my mood, I was in a really good mood yesterday, so I'm going with dark green. And I haven't checked in with my gratitude log in a while. I think it's one of those things that like I kind of have to do it on camera or it doesn't get done. But I have a couple of things that I can add on here. In particular, I'm grateful for Teams and OneNote because these are the main resources I use for my teaching. And they're proving to be quite helpful for online teaching. Now, I've already actually filled out my productivity key mostly, but I then, after filling it out, did some work for Year 8, so I'm going to add that in as well. For my habits, a couple of things to fill in there. I made a point of getting to 2,000 steps yesterday, so I know that one, but I'm not too sure what my step count was for Sunday, so I'm going to have to leave that one for now. Sadly, yesterday I forgot to take my evening medication, but other than that, my habits aren't going too badly. Social media. Go. Nothing to add here. Chemistry. OneNote pages per lesson is finished. And half across that because it's been started. Been started. Still work to be done. And my meal log. And then writing in that extra date. Oh, I also didn't show you how last week finished off, so this was what it looked like when it was done. And then writing in the date. There we go, and it's over to my PowerSheets. So, working our way down, haven't done any more decluttering of my files, still haven't reviewed my spending. Not sure when that's going to happen. I really need to set some time aside for that. Haven't done my summarizing for South Korea or Queenstown. Still working on term 2. Haven't done any reading this month. The month of planning with me is going well, as you can see. And the May tending list, not yet. In terms of weekly action items, today I have started doing the towel washing, so I can check that one off. But everything else I have to leave. I think we're doing the budgeting later tonight, so hopefully I'll get to check that off tomorrow. And in terms of the daily ones, morning work happened, though it got extended to the next morning. And we did also have the no spend happen, but active leisure time didn't. And now over to my teacher planner. Just to show you what I've been doing over the past couple of days, so last time we had one of these videos, I showed you that I was using the checklist at the back of my planner to do these kind of unit plans rather than stuff for my students. So at the moment I've got one for chemistry, which has got a little blue border here with some washi tape, because blue is the colour I use for chem. I then have a green one for biochem, so I've got that one in there. All of the same stuff at the top. And for physchem, that one is yellow. For physchem, I've also taken one of the extra checklists, one of the parts that I cut off when I actually have this for my students. See here how it says fold or cut along this line, so any of the parts I cut off I can stick in to then use this side for another topic. So far so good with those, I am liking that. Flipping back though. So this is our current week and things are coming along. I am very glad that I decided to use my erasable pen because I did have to make a change to one of my biochem lessons. What I want to do today though is go and put in the coloured bands for my classes for next week. So as I start to think about what I'm going to be doing next week, I can actually start putting those things in. At the moment I don't have any plans to put in for week 2, but it does feel good to have all of my lessons in here, so when I do start thinking about what's happening next week, I can put that stuff in. Thank you for watching, team. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you wanted to see more from me, feel free to go check out one of my other videos. Until next time, bye!